Federation?
As this delegate is aware of, as this is a UNA-USA style conference, there were no seconds mentioned in the rules of procedure. As this delegate
The chair is corrected. The chair will state, are there any points or motions in the committee? Yes, Delegate of Japan.
The speaking time to 90 seconds.
Delegate, total duration time for that is out of order. Since the previous delegate had opened a moderate caucus for 15 duration time, it is difficult to have 90 seconds individual speaking time.
For the order to the chair.
Yes, delegate.
Since we have not passed the motion raised by the delegate of Russian Federation, and also we have not moved into voting procedure for the motion, this delegate's motion to set the speaking time was for the GSL, not for the motion moderated caucus.
Thank you. The chair is corrected. Are there any points or motions in the committee? Instead of following to the order of precedence due to the time constraint and the pandemic, the chair would like to select the motion raised by the delegate of Russian Federation. There has been a motion to move into a moderate caucus with total duration time 15 minutes and individual speaking time 60 seconds for the purpose of cooperating in post-COVID-19. Now the committee will move into voting procedures. This is a procedural vote that requires a simple majority to pass and no abstentions are allowed. Administrative staff, please secure the door and take your voting position. No passing will be temporarily suspended. All delegates wishing to vote for this motion, please raise your placard high. All those who are against this motion, please raise your placard high. Since this is a procedural vote, abstentions are not allowed. Since the committee has not met its quorum, the committee will undergo revote procedure. This is a procedural vote that requires a simple majority to pass and no abstention. Staff, please secure the door and take your voting procedures. No passing will be temporary. Delegates wishing to vote for this motion. 6. 7. All those against this motion, please raise your placard high. This is a procedural vote that requires no abstentions are allowed. So all the delegates should vote in this voting procedure. We will undergo a revote once again. Administrative staff, please secure the door. And all delegates wishing to vote for this motion, please raise your placard high. All those who are against this motion, please raise your placard high. One delegate with 13 nations for and 1 nation against, this motion passes. Now the committee will move into moderate caucus until 10:45. Delegates wishing to speak, please raise your placard high. Delegate of China, you have been recognized.
First of all, we would like to thank all delegates for having expressed their opinions on the current issues we are dealing with today. From our observations of countries that have presented their stances, nations such as Philippines and Iran are in need of medical advice from more experienced countries with COVID-19 and who are more able to provide capital to execute such measures. Thus, as the People's Republic of China, we would like to state that we would like to go on with such measures because we are able to. Secondly, as a delegate of the United States of America may already know, a few weeks ago, one of our primary diplomats, Yang Jiechi, and the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo had a meeting in which they presented their views in Hawaii. In that meeting, we have stated that we are still devoted to work together with the US without any conflict. However, we would also like to make clear in this moment that the PRC will not stay as the underdogs of the US. And if the US continues to disrespect our economic and global visions, we will unfortunately have to diverge paths, and thus the choice that may affect history.
Delegate, your time has elapsed. Please take your seat. Delegates who's wishing to speak, please raise your placard high. Delegate of United States, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. This delegate is very happy to hear the wish of the delegate of China in its cooperation, and we welcome any forms of cooperation. And this delegate would like to mention that we have witnessed many nations that have faced things were interrupted, such as the case of Singapore, whose reliance on food import was very, they faced much difficulty when the international chains were interrupted. So this delegate strongly believes that the current forms of free trade needs to be adjusted to address the issues that nations like Singapore have faced. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. All those delegates wishing to speak, please raise your placard high. Delegate of Russian Federation.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, esteemed delegates. This delegate is very happy to listen to the concerns and comments of various delegates who are wishing to build a much better post-COVID-19 world. And seeing so many concerns that are happening within the community regarding the post-COVID-19, it is certain that current forms of institutions such as the World Health Organization or the United Nations are unable to present a solution to such a crisis, such a pandemic like COVID-19. This delegate fully agrees with the proposals from many different delegates, such as the delegate of the Philippines, Vietnam, Brazil, and Iran, that there should be both economic and health measures that should be presented to fight and curb COVID-19. This delegate is willing to cooperate with so many different like-minded partners in presenting and cooperating and presenting a solution to building a much better post-COVID-19 world. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of Russian Federation. Delegates who is wishing to speak, please raise your placard high. Delegate of Japan, you have been recognized.
This delegate would like to thank all delegates from this committee for making such a great presentations at the beginning of the conference. And this delegate would like to agree on the World Health Organization and other current organizations have failed with the COVID-19 situations. And also this delegate also agrees that economic measures must be devised, as a lot of other delegates have mentioned, including delegate of India and delegate of Singapore and etc. So this delegate would like to suggest open discussion regarding the economic addressing economic problems, and also this delegate highly encourages other delegates to focus on all aspects that should be ready for the post-COVID-19 world. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of Japan. All those delegates wishing to speak, please raise your placard high. Delegate of Italy, you have been recognized.
Chair. This delegate would like to appreciate the whole delegates to show the intention to our presentation, and especially the delegate of Russian Federation. And as the delegate of Russian Federation and other delegates they mentioned, this delegate, the delegate of Italy would like to suggest the healthcare resolution, especially like epidemic stabilization, in order to deal with the detailed prevention for the future epidemic crisis.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate who is wishing to speak, please raise your placard high. Delegate of China, you have been recognized.
First of all, it was a great pleasure hearing from the delegate of the United States of America. However, the United States of America emphasized the
vision of other kinds of sources rather than the current carbon-dependent economy. And this delegate believed that to implement these kinds of new solutions, there could be technology deployment or exchange between developed and developing nations, and to facilitate climate finance so that developed nations could fund developing countries so that they can implement climate action while having incentives so that both sectors can be satisfied and work for climate action. Within this process, if transparency is ensured, this delegate believes that the agenda can be mitigated, and if there is more room for consideration, such as private sector, the civil society, and education to the public, there could be more.
30 seconds remaining.
Delegate. This delegate would like to end her speech by emphasizing that though we are here to implement climate action and following the Paris Agreement, which will be held by 2020, this delegate believes that there could be more room for improvement, such as legally binding commitments. So this delegate of Germany suggests the international society to come together to find
10 seconds remaining.
realistic
Closing remarks.
and applicable solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate. Please return to your seat. Delegate of Indonesia, please approach the podium. You have 3 minutes to speak. You may begin.
Honorable chairs and fellow delegates, it is a great honor for Indonesia to represent in this committee to discuss the climate change issues that we have. Lastly, my fellow delegates mentioned the delegate of Indonesia would like to provide more explanation about how the plan for green initiative for developing countries sustainable work. A lot of delegates in this committee has discussed about international cooperation. Brazil has discussed about the educational forum. Saudi Arabia also discussed about the international cooperation. Nepal specifically asked for more help from developed countries to support developing countries on transition to new energy.
Or the international organizations, but I think that this might be too unrealistic. And who would be the new leader of that newly formed organization? I think by funding more, China can be the main constraint of the economic leader. And since Russia is in a deep economic crisis situation for a long term, I think might seek a new efficient leader. And the economic crisis and this COVID-19 situation is not really over, so we could not find out efficiently worked or not.
Delegate, your time has elapsed.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Economic blocs such as the RCEP or the Trans-Pacific Partnership of US and China competing within the region. Therefore, this delegate believes that there should be a more stronger alternative to such ideas, which countries within the Eurasian continent, within Asia and Europe, can further cooperate without
Delegate, your time has elapsed.
being influenced by US and China. Thank you.
All those delegates wishing to speak, please raise your placard high. Delegate of India, you have been recognized.
Thank you all the delegates for the good presentation. What we like to suggest is everyone mentioned about the free trade association. However, as we mentioned in the presentation, the ultimate problem is that since the beginning of 2020, according to the World Trade Alert, the countries are restricting regulating the exporting of medical supplies. So what we believe is we need to encourage partnership with World Trade Organization and make a new criteria or redefine the policy to restrict the regulation of the medical supplies. So we need to manufacture and distribute, we need to manage the manufacture and distribution of diagnostics, antiviral medicines, and personal protective equipment and vaccine, adhering to the objectives of efficacy, safety, equity, accessibility, and affordability.
Thank you, delegate. All those delegates wishing to speak, please raise your placard high. Delegate of China, you have been recognized. Please use the microphone.
The delegate of Russia has mentioned that the WHO is biased thanks to that because another big power, the United States, has withdrawn from the WHO, and the biggest power next to that was China, and that is why WHO had to rely on China for its economic strength. And we believe that strengthening the WHO, the beautiful organizations such as the United Nations, is creating a whole new international organization will bring much more risk. And we agree to the Republic.
Are there any points or motions in the committee? Seeing none, the committee will move into voting procedures. This is a procedural vote which requires simple majority vote and no abstentions are allowed. Administrative staff, please secure the doors and take your voting positions. All those for this motion, please raise your placard high. Please raise your placard high. All those against this motion, please raise your placard high. Nations for and 0 nations against this motion passes. The committee will have a moderate caucus for total duration time 10 minutes for until 11 o'clock for the purpose of cooperation in post-COVID-19 world. Delegates wishing to speak, please raise your placard high. Delegate of Vietnam, you have been recognized.
For us, the Vietnam, we think like for the global cooperation, especially the topic of having new organizations, not really effective for now. We can think that as a long-term reform. But for now, the COVID-19 is spreading very rapidly, so we may need very immediate actions to deal with economic and local issues. So for now, the WHO can have control tower, but instead of they have all the power, we can have some local organizations to deal with the local issues, such as like Europe, US, and like Asia have different cases for the corona and the economic situations. So such as the organization like EU or ASEAN can have the local like united actions rather than having WHO to have WHO for having a whole power. So for the reform, we can wait for like long term, but right now we need like more local like organized power. Thank you.
Thank you. All those delegates wishing to speak, please raise your placard high. Delegate of Japan, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and distinguished delegates. This delegate understands the concerns of some nations that creating a whole new organization might be so far-fetched. However, reform of the current existing organization is necessary because we are clear that currently successfully deal with the COVID-19. China has mentioned will be necessary for the newly reformed organization. However, this delegate believes that since it is a democratic institution where all nations will have to be state, this delegate believes
how our world should go further ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of Russian Federation. All those delegates wishing to speak, please raise your placard high. Delegates of the United States, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you to the delegate of the Russian Federation for presenting a specific reform measure. This delegate would like to ask how the delegates not represented in this session would be represented in the format of nations that are not present here will not be present there. So their voices, there is a big chance that their voices will not be heard. And in the remaining time, this delegate would like to once again emphasize that there is a need to reinforce the domestic market in addition to the international cooperation in terms of economic development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate of the United States. All those delegates wishing to speak, please raise your placard high. Delegate of China, you have been recognized.
Thank you. It seems as if the delegate of Japan emphasized the word leader, but as the delegate of China, we are not emphasizing the importance of leader, but we are more emphasizing the importance of support. For WHO or international organization is born, then we need organization the most. And as the delegate of China, we believe that because China has the most population and a worldwide network, fund more and support more that newly formed organization. So we are not emphasizing the importance of leader or the power, but as the democratic society has the president as the one who hears from hears the opinions of likely to act as a supporter and the main economic stream of that newly formed organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of China. All those delegates wishing to speak, please raise your placard high. Delegate of Japan, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Delegate of China, for replying to this delegate's question. However, this delegate would like to question that if the country that funds the most to the organization has more to say in that organization, then what would the other least developed countries who do not have the capacity to contribute to the organization? This delegate would like to question if the delegate of China believes that LDCs will not have the equal access to say in the organization if they have as other developed countries can. Also, this delegate would like to agrees that delegate of China, the country China should contribute more to after the COVID-19 because that was the country where the virus is self-initiated and the country failed to mitigate the virus itself.
Thank you, Delegate of Japan. Delegate wishing to speak. Delegate of Russian Federation, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, fellow delegates. In response to the delegate of the United States question, this delegate believes as, for example, the Trans-Pacific Partnership was first formed with 4 countries. However, later on, it became a group of 15 like-minded countries. This delegate believes that although we start with 14 countries right now with the sole consensus, we can later on add member states, just like any other institutions, like the UN or NATO did. Furthermore, in response to China's comments about giving out support to other countries, this delegate questions the idea of support and would like further clarification. For example, China has been supporting many different countries in the region with its One Belt, One Road program. Countries such as Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Tonga broke. Sri Lanka has debt. Maldives is also broke. Tonga has got a military base right in their ports. Question, delegate of China on what
Delegate,
support
your time has
is delegate
elapsed,
China's
so please take your
current
seat.
Thank you.
Delegates, all those wishing to speak, please raise your placard high. Delegate of India, you have been recognized.
We believe redesigning the World Health Organization can also be a solution, but what we suggest is in the developing countries, more than 100,000 people are getting infected daily. So what we think is the rapid response to this pandemic. So what we suggest is the partnership with the other organization, because World Health Organization only focus on the health, but what we have to discuss is also about the economic and also about the regulation of the medical trade. So what we suggest is partnership with the World Health Organization about health and the World Bank or IMF about the economic crisis, and also about the World Trade Organization about to resolve the problem of restricting the trade of medical supplies. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate of India. All those delegates wishing to speak, please raise your placard high. Delegate of China, you have been recognized.
First of all, we would like to talk about the expression given by the delegate of America. We believe that America has, for the past 4 years, and the Trump administration, they have been going for isolationist policies and more going for deglobalization. However, it is pretty groundless that they are holding hands with Russia right now in the name of global cooperation. So we believe that we would like America to clarify on their exact position on globalization or deglobalization, first of all. Second point, the clarification of the One Belt, One Road initiative. First of all, we would like to clarify that the One Belt, One Road isn't just developing countries. Yeah, it is also countries like Italy, for example. We do not just force developing countries to come with us. That is not true. It is all based off of consent and a win-win situation. They would be gaining as much as we would.